Hi, I'm Zoe Streeter, and I am here with distinguished alumni John Trombettea. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is John Trombettea. I go by Cowboy, which you can see on my call sign. I am an F-16 test pilot for the United States Air Force. I'm actually a full-time reservist now, but still doing the same type of flight test work that I was doing full-time with the Air Force. So I currently live in Tucson, Arizona, where the weather's beautiful, 365 almost days a year. It's 80 degrees outside right now in April, so we are loving life here.
Was there anyone at Parkland that was a major influence in your life and helped you to get to where you are today?
You know, when I look back at my time at Parkland, I think of the teachers there, right? And their excitement for what they were doing. And I could probably name something good about every teacher I had there, but in high school I had Mrs. Cortazo. She was my German teacher. She just exuded excitement about Germany. And in fact, she hosted us on a trip out to Germany, which is still one of the highlights of my career there. I remember Mr. Weatherholt was a physics instructor. For me, physics is kind of the impetus of what got me into flying, and it's one of the reasons that I pursued the flight test course. And I could always feel the excitement he had towards that subject. As I go back in time a little bit, sixth grade, I had Mr. Stoisitz. I had great memories of him in Ironton, Mrs. Lintner, Mrs. Frack in third grade. So it really goes on and on. To be honest, what I remember most about those teachers, like I said previously, is the excitement that they showed towards their subjects. And for me, that excitement rubs off, right? As a student, you can feel that, and it makes you want to learn and want to be engaged. And Parkland does a great job of finding teachers that are good at that, right? Finding teachers that make students want to engage in class. And though I know I'm leaving out some fantastic teachers, those are just a few that I think had a pretty big, memorable impact on me and my time at Parkland.
So, did you participate in any clubs or sports during your time at Parkland?
So early on, back in junior high, I played football. I did not continue to pursue football through high school. I was on the fitness team. I'm not even sure if you guys still have a fitness team at Parkland, but I did that kind of through the later high school years, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, as a means to help me work my way towards the Air Force Academy. Other than that, not necessarily Parkland related, but I was active in Civil Air Patrol, and that took a lot of my time outside of school and the club activities.
What classes in particular did you enjoy the most?
So for me, it was always math and science. And honestly, I don't know that those were maybe even my best subjects, but they were definitely the subjects that I was most interested in. So I spoke about it earlier, but physics was absolutely one of my favorite classes. I enjoyed the geometry, the math, and though I didn't really continue on with it in my life, I actually liked the foreign languages. But unfortunately, that wasn't a path for me to continue. But probably math and science, if I had to narrow it down to two.
What is your best memory from your days at Parkland?
Easily, it was my friends. The friendships you make in high school are interesting because unlike adult friendships, they tend to persist throughout your life, and those friends you make have a very measurable impact on who you become in life. And just recently, actually, I've had the opportunity to reconnect with some of those friends, and it's been fantastic. Some shout outs, Michael Jordan, Chris Johnson, who were rock stars at Parkland, and just sitting at lunch with my friends, laughing, joking, going to classes with them, studying together, and then hanging out on the weekends together. My best memories are the times I got to spend with those friends that were so impactful in my life going forward.
If you could relive your high school experience, what would you do differently?
That's a tough question. To be honest, I had a great time in high school, and there isn't much I would change necessarily. I think it's very common to kind of find your core group of friends in high school and stick to them, right? And those are your lifelines to the world at that very impressionable time in your life. But if I had to do it again, I think I would reach out. You know, we have an amazing ability in our community, in our society right now, to follow people via social media and see what they're doing and who they've become. And I got to tell you, my class at Parkland, the class of 2000, absolutely some amazing individuals doing some amazing things. And when I look at those accomplishments, I think to myself, boy, I wish I had known that person better. I had a class with that person, but I never really spoke with them. So if I could do it all over again, I would be more bold in my relationship building, and I would have met those people and learned from them, because honestly, that class is out there doing great things. I'm very proud of it.
What advice would you give to current students?
So for me, the biggest piece of advice that I would give current students is to, find that dream, find that thing that keeps you up at night. Because for me, flying fighters kept me up at night in high school. It was something I wanted worse than anything in the world, right? My advice to them would be, find that thing, whatever it is, no matter how big or how small you think that dream is, find it and let it burn inside of you. Let it keep you up at night, because when the time comes to take a step in the direction, you'll do it. When the time comes to dig deep and find that grit, you're going to find it. When that time comes to go to that place you need to go to, you're going to go to that place. And, I would wish that new students would find that the students would embrace their dreams and don't let anyone diminish them, right? And do their best to accomplish them, right?
So how do you feel that Parkland set you up for success in your career field?
So that question is easy. I had the maybe abnormal situation where I got to go to Parkland from kindergarten all the way through graduation. So I got the whole Parkland experience. And I will definitely say that the curriculum, the difficulty of that curriculum, and the foresight that Parkland has for that curriculum and for the education they're giving their students. And it's not just the classes, right? The sports, the clubs, all of the opportunities you get from going to Parkland are outstanding. And for me, that all became very relevant when I left Parkland and went off to college. And going to the Airforce Academy, I was nervous. I didn't know if I'd be able to cut it there. I didn't know if I would be able to compete at what I thought was a much higher level. And Parkland did an amazing job of preparing me for that, from the educational side of it, from the relationship side of it, being able to build relationships, make friends, and do all those things that kind of help make you successful in life. I would say Parkland did an amazing job in knowing what a student needs to be successful, and then building a path for them to gain those skills and gain those capabilities that will be necessary for them to be successful. And I think Parkland does a great job at that. And that, to me, starts with the teachers, right? The teachers at Parkland are, in my opinion, second to none. Now, I'm totally biased, right? But to this day, I can remember very specific instances where, a teacher impacted my life and helped me achieve my goals. So for that, Parkland does amazing work, and nothing but a thank you from me.
Did you ever see yourself being more than a fighter pilot as you strived for that accomplishment?
If I'm being completely honest, the answer to that is no. When I was 24, maybe, was the first time that I got to fly an F-16, and I can remember landing from that mission and thinking to myself, I have accomplished everything I've set out to do in life. And that feeling is a double-edged sword, right? Because you think, boy, I'm 24, and this is what's kept me up at night, right? Getting here and being here and doing this. But what I've always tried to do in life is never dwell on where I'm at. And I always think to myself, okay, well, I'm here. I did this. Let's set another goal. Let's set another objective. And for me, that was to become an instructor pilot, and then from there to become a test pilot. And then after I became a test pilot, it's going to be working towards that next goal after the military. And the importance to me has always been set an objective, focus on that objective, make it become my sole purpose. And then when I achieve that objective, move on. Forget about everything, all the bad or all the toughness leading up to it, and set another goal for myself. So for me, it's always kind of been one day at a time, and one goal or objective at a time. But what I will say is, throughout my journey in this, in my adult life as an officer and as a military pilot, the thing I've learned is, it's not about flying the airplanes, right? I love flying the airplanes, don't get me wrong, but it's about a mission, and that mission is ultimately about helping people. And that for me is where the change really occurred, right? I thought to myself, I love being a fighter pilot. I love it. It's what I sent to do, but that was a personal goal. What helped me move forward was deciding, what about that goal do I love? Right? And for me, it was the fact that I felt like I was doing something important. Felt like I was helping those Army guys on the ground who needed support, or I was providing overwatch for a major sporting event over the United States. The thing that makes a goal worthwhile isn't necessarily what it does for you, but what it does for other people. And I found that being a pilot is actually a way to help people. And for me, that was a fantastic realization.
Speaking of your time as a fighter pilot, what was training with the Taiwanese fighter pilots like, and what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, that was totally crazy, because it's different, right? Every country's military has a reason for being, and that reason for being is based on any number of factors. But Taiwan's reason for being is to defend their homeland from whatever aggressors they may have. And I'm sure you can assume who Taiwan might believe is an aggressor. So they had a very offensive mentality. And flying with them was eye-opening to me, because you saw a perspective that was maybe a little different than the defensive perspective or posture that we tend to take as Americans, let alone the fact that there was a massive language barrier. So you would be flying with these pilots who had a very specific goal and objective for what they were trying to learn, to protect their homeland, to be offensive when that time was required, but learn from us how to do that. But sometimes the communication was not easy, right? So what I learned is that at the end of the day, people are people, right? Whether you speak Chinese, English, Mandarin, it doesn't matter. People are people. And they cared about protecting their families as much as I care about protecting my family and my country. And when you find that common ground where you can meet, you find that the language barrier breaks down a little bit, right? Because you are viewing things from the same perspective. With that said, there were definitely challenges flying with them. They fly slightly different mission sets than we do in the United States, and I learned from them probably as much as they learned from me. So you learn at the end of the day that if I can boil it down to one or two salient points, you learn at the end of the day that people are people. Treat them the way that you want to be treated, because they're having the same thoughts you are. They're having the same concerns, the same fears that you might be having. And then try and understand where they come from, understand the culture. And for me, I ingrained myself in their culture when I flew in their squadron, and I learned so much about them. I learned so much about what's important to them, how they view their purpose in life. And I did my best when I was training in that squadron and training pilots in that squadron to guide that training towards their needs.
Speaking of your time as a fighter pilot, what was training with the Taiwanese fighter pilots like, and what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, that was totally crazy, because it's different, right? Every country's military has a reason for being, and that reason for being is based on any number of factors. But Taiwan's reason for being is to defend their homeland from whatever aggressors they may have. And I'm sure you can assume who Taiwan might believe is an aggressor. So they had a very offensive mentality. And flying with them was eye-opening to me because, you saw a perspective that was maybe a little different than the defensive perspective or posture that we tend to take as Americans, let alone the fact that there was a massive language barrier. So you would be flying with these pilots who had a very specific goal and objective for what they were trying to learn, to protect their homeland, to be offensive when that time was required, but learn from us how to do that. But sometimes the communication was not easy, right? So what I learned is that at the end of the day, people are people, right? Whether you speak Chinese, English, Mandarin, it doesn't matter. People are people. And they cared about protecting their families as much as I care about protecting my family and my country. And when you find that common ground where you can meet, you find that the language barrier breaks down a little bit, right? Because you are viewing things from the same perspective. With that said, there were definitely challenges flying with them. They fly slightly different mission sets than we do in the United States. And I learned from them probably as much as they learned from me. So you learn at the end of the day that if I can boil it down to one or two salient points, you learn at the end of the day that people are people. Treat them the way that you want to be treated, because they're having the same thoughts you are. They're having the same concerns, the same fears that you might be having. And then try and understand where they come from, understand the culture. And for me, I ingrained myself in their culture when I flew in their squadron, and I learned so much about them. I learned so much about what's important to them, how they view their purpose in life. And I did my best when I was training in that squadron and training pilots in that squadron to guide that training towards their needs.
So you mentioned your first time flying the fighter jet. What would you say that was like? Like, what did that feel like doing that for the first time?
The first time you're flying it, you are not thinking about how cool what you're doing is. You are, the only thought going through your mind is, oh my gosh, I hope I don't mess this up, because I really want to do this again. And if I mess this up badly enough, they're not going to let me do this again. That was a thought I can remember thinking. But I had the coolest instructor pilot. And I can remember he told me, we were doing what we call an unrestricted climb. So you level off low to the ground, and then you pull kind of straight up into the sky and off takeoff. And when we were at the end of the runway prior to takeoff, he was like, "Hey, Cowboys, my call sign. Oh, it's over here. Nope, over here." And he said to me, when you pull up into the vertical, I want you to look over your shoulder, and I want you to just take a minute, or not even a minute, take 3 seconds and try and enjoy what's happening right now. And I did that. We pulled up, and I can remember looking over my shoulder and seeing the missiles on the wingtip and seeing the fighter shaped wing. And then I looked down at the ground again. We're going essentially straight up at this point. And I looked down at the ground, and it just looks like the ground is just falling away. And it was an image that will continue to burn itself into my mind. And to this day, 2,000 hours later in the F-16, every time I do a takeoff like that, I always make a point of looking over my shoulder and trying to relive that first feeling, right? Because at the end of the day, anything you do a lot of becomes a job, becomes work. And I do my best not to take it for granted. I do my best to remember the excitement that using the third person that 24-year-old cowboy had towards flying, and what 16-year-old Jack wanted to do worse than anything in his life. And I try and remember that person and enjoy it as much as I can.
That is incredible. Thank you so much for talking with us and sharing your experiences. It was great to hear from you. And
No
congratulations on your acceptance into the Parkland Education Foundation's Distinguished Alumni.
Thank you. And thank you to Parkland and all the opportunities that Parkland gave me. It's too bad we can't do this in person. I would love to meet the students, and I hope someday to travel back to Pennsylvania and get to do that. But let me say thank you to all the teachers and staff and faculty for everything they do for students every day, for all the opportunities they give all their students every day. And go Trojans.